I've been championing the Northstar goal for a long time, and I've really tried to create a talk here that doesn't sound too familiar. Try to come at it from a different angle so that you guys can see its value and see how to apply it in your life. Because I think it's a massive game changer. To be honest, we've been doing this for such a long time, and some people end up doing really well and they end up recovering from their addiction or from their bad habit. And they end up becoming very intentional with their time and energy. And they end up creating really strong relationships, and other people don't. And I honestly think that my wife reminds me of this all the time, that God is very simple. Love is very simple in essence. It's us that complicates it. I want to make this as simple as possible. But at the end of the day, our goal here is to uncomplicate your life, enjoying your time together with yourself, together with friends, and by being present, by being fully yourself. So essentially, North Star goal, it's about internal things. It's not about accomplishing external things. If you think about it, why do we want to accomplish anything at all? It's because we think it'll make us feel a certain way. Why do you want to go to the blessing? Because you think you'll be happy in a relationship. Why do you want to get a raise at your job? Is because you think that you'll get more money and that'll somehow make you happier, right? We always have an actual internal reason for all the things that we aspire to. And so lately, I've been really grilling people. This is a foundational question that few people can answer with any specificity whatsoever, which is, what in the world do you want? Meaning, like, what would you love to have? What would you be willing to fight to create in your life? What do you really, really want? And to be honest, a lot of us are so used to just taking what life has to offer that we don't even spend the time trying to invest in a dream, invest in something beyond what exists presently. And we settle for the status quo. And if you think about that sexually, that's exactly what porn is. Porn is everywhere. So it's just like, well, it's not that bad, is it? I just heard a guy today who's been on this path towards developing his sexual integrity for many years. And he even caught himself lying to himself. He knows that it's a lie, but he wants to believe that it's not that bad watching porn, right? Because that's the easy way out. And it's so much easier to just go with the flow than to dig your heels in and go for something in life. So the question is, what do you want? And without a driving force, it's going to be very hard to create a new situation in your life. And it'll be much more likely that you're going to end up right where you are unless you have somewhere to go, something to do. This is from Viktor Frankl. When a person can't find a deep sense of meaning, they distract themselves with pleasure. Does that sound familiar? Does that sound like an entire generation? What are we supposed to do? Like, college is a big question for a lot of people. It creates a lot of debt. It doesn't necessarily lead to a job. It doesn't necessarily lead to any clarity whatsoever, but we should go. Why? Because everybody else goes, right? Some people are clear about why they're going, blah, 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 blah. But we're inundated with expectations, but not really connected to a sense of meaning or purpose. And because of that, we're doing all the things we feel we should be doing without any sense of meaning. And so since we feel so awkward, we just want to distract ourselves with pleasure. This is the human condition presently that we're facing. And this is what I want you to really see the North Star goal as, is an attempt to find meaning in the things you do by assessing your life and seeing what's missing and where can you go after certain things that you don't necessarily have. So there's an underlying emotional reason behind every addiction. The addiction itself is the result, but there's an emotional driver behind that. And there's also an emotional underlying reason behind every goal that we want to go after, like I mentioned before. So this is what the North Star goal is focusing on that emotion and practicing being that person. If I could say it as simply as possible, it's instead of saying, okay, I want to get really good grades. And then you think to yourself, why do I want really good grades? Oh, because then I'll be happy. Instead, why don't you be a really happy, healthy student who, because they're so joyful, they have an open mind and an open heart. And because of that, school is much easier and grades are much easier to come by. That's the case when you are open, right? So, but the focus there is on being that emotion and practicing that emotion while you're doing things, and watch what happens. There's the things that we don't want to do, and there's the things that we want to do that will bring us towards our ideal self. We have definitely things here. And the only way that you can go is a strong desire, okay? A really strong desire. neurologically speaking, that we've created these pathways and we just think the same thoughts, they produce the same feelings. So we just do the same stuff. And unless you have a strong desire to change, you'll always end up here. Now, there's two types of desires that can really drive a person, and they're all founded on love. One is a compelling vision. So the desire for wanting something more, something better than what I have. Like, I want to be a happier person. I want to be a kinder person, like something really optimistic and positive. But that actually is very few people are driven by this. This is what I advise you to do, to live your life pursuing heaven. That's what true parents do, is not waiting for the world to fall apart, but instead to create channel good. But most people are driven by the second one, which is escaping hell, which is my life is so bad right now, I've got to fix it. That's why a lot of people with addiction don't fix their situation until they've reached what's called rock bottom. But it doesn't need to be that way. You don't have to have a health crisis like a heart attack in order to start eating healthy. You can just start eating healthy because you really want to be a healthy person. That's a much better plan, right? But for a lot of us, we're just so stuck in our ways that we wait until we crash into a wall before we change course. But the North Star goal is identifying what heaven looks like, what a great life looks like, and pursuing that, investing your energy in that. The paradox is that we tend to set goals with our conscious mind, our brain, our thinking brain. And yet our addictions and our bad habits are actually driven by our unconscious emotions. Like, you don't zone out on Instagram because it's a part of a goal. It's because you're avoiding something in your life. It's because you're stuck, or, there's many different reasons why that might happen, but it's an unconscious emotional habit that's driving that behavior. The power of the North Star goal is that it's there to give you emotional goals. So to go back to consciously set emotional goals. This is very different. Kimmy, I used to share an office with him, and I was there a million times when he was teaching his goal setting strategy. And it's really good for accomplishing stuff, for reaching new heights in your business or your life. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be a happier person. You might be more accomplished in your job or whatever. It doesn't necessarily lead to fulfillment. And in the absence of fulfillment, that's when we reach out for porn. That's when we do silly things with our time, is when we're not fulfilled, which is why you can have really successful people who still have trouble in the area of sex and relationships. The value of the North Star goal is setting goals that really resonate with a deep longing of your heart, that your heart wants, not I think I should get because my family wants it, or because society tells me I should look cool and have this thing. In your heart of hearts, what do you actually really want to see happen in your life? What do you want to experience? This is from True Father's autobiography. I love this. When we built the mud-walled house and began the church in, don't quote me on this name, Byongnekgol. Sorry for anybody who actually knows Korean. There were only 3 people to hear me preach. For me, however, I was not talking to those 3 people, just to those 3 people. I thought to myself, though they cannot be seen, I am preaching to thousands, even tens of thousands. I envisioned as I preached that all humanity was in attendance. These 3 people sat before me while I conveyed the words, the principle, in a loud, booming voice. So this is not like goal setting because he wants to build a giant church, because he wants to be like Joel Osteen and he wants like really shiny white teeth. He wants a really expensive belt. What he's talking about is like his yearning to want to impact humanity. And it has to start somewhere. It has to start with these 3 people. But in his mind and in his heart, more importantly, he's speaking to the whole world. These 3 people. And we heard a similar story when he was carrying that one guy on his back after he escaped Hungnam, I think, right? Where it's like this guy represented all of humanity. If I can't save this one person, I cannot help anybody else. This is the type of internal goal that where you're adding meaning and value to your actions beyond the action itself. So if it's just like, I'm not going to watch Instagram today, and it's not connected to a higher purpose, you're going to eventually go back to Instagram because there's nothing driving you deep down inside. So what I'm talking about with the North Star goal is it's something, again, that like, I'm going to put down Instagram because I have stuff to do. I have a life to live that's meaningful and valuable. I have people's lives to impact. Very different. It's very different. And it makes putting down your phone a lot easier because you have somewhere to go, something to invest your time and energy into. But my wife, she definitely helped me to realize this on numerous occasions because she believes this in her bone marrow that she and I, we are Adam and Eve. Like, I can't explain to you about that story, Adam and Eve. For the life of me, imagine what they look like, what they dress like, or anything like. It's hard to relate to be honest, for me. I'm a very logical person, but I know that that story is true in my bones. And I know that if I go down the same path, then I can expect my kids to suffer the same fate as Adam and Eve's kids. I know that. And I know that if I can do the right thing and love my wife and go the right path, then everything I do starts to resurrect the path that they couldn't. By us really embodying this situation, this paradigm, it adds value to every single time that I'm tempted to yell at my wife, that I'm tempted to give up on myself and say, like, marriage is too hard. But if I do that, then the whole world falls apart. And I really feel like that. So I'm not recommending this for you, but for me, this has helped me tremendously because I'm also connected to you guys. And if I have a healthy marriage, it's going to make it easier for you to have a healthy marriage. And if I let my marriage fall apart, then that really will impact you. It's just the way that we're all interconnected. So I just want you to know that the more that you can envision this, the same with the true father example, the more that we can really imagine something bigger than what our senses see and put value on our actions, the more that the stakes are higher and the more that we're inclined to do the right thing more often. So the opposite of addiction is connection. This is an old kind of saying in the addiction world. So in terms of setting your Northstar goal, I would recommend looking at these areas of your life. Do you need to be more connected to God? Do you need to spend more time with yourself? In our podcast that I recorded today with Karina, she mentioned this great fact that whenever true parents were about to do something really big in their life, they would actually stop everything and go fishing for 40 days. Or before True Father met with Kim Il-sung, he went to Hawaii and prayed intensely for 3 days just to get out of the day-to-day situation and figure out, who do I need to be right now in order to accomplish something great? So spending time with yourself, really in reflection. Are you in a good situation where you're really connected to your community, whatever that is, your school community, your church community? And do you have a strong sense of purpose in your career or in your life? I would recommend looking in these neighborhoods and seeing if anything resonates with you. Because most people, they have a feeling, they don't know the feeling, they don't understand it. They're just driven by the feeling, and that causes them to do stuff, good stuff and bad stuff. Let's say this is anger, yelling at my friends. The result is feeling awkward with my friends. And they don't understand why they did that. They're very curious. Why did I do that? And they don't understand where this anger came from. That's where most people are. They're not really self-aware. But healthy people spend time learning about their feelings. Again, really important North Star goal stuff here. And then they find the best outlet for that feeling. Anger is not a bad feeling. You can use anger to do some great stuff. I did have some great workouts sometimes when I'm really angry because I use that fuel to I feel like somebody's doing something really bad in the world. I'm like, oh, you think that's bad? Watch these abs. And I'll just do crazy push-ups and I'll just harness that energy. It gives you superpowers if you know how to use it, channeling that energy. And then you evaluate the results of your actions. Are your actions taking you towards the life that you're proud of, towards your ideals or not? And then you go through this process again and again. That is a person who's living in alignment with their ideals. And so the North Star goal is really about understanding your feelings and learning how to harness them to propel you towards a life that you're proud of. When you're living a life that you're proud of, you don't want to ruin it. It's like sometimes people will go to watch porn because they're so ashamed of their body, because they've been eating junk food, because they haven't been going to the gym, because they have all this accumulated energy. They're just not taking care of themselves and they feel awful. So they want an escape. That's really important to understand your feelings. There's so many different things, but instead, to use that as an example, if you have body image issues, to learn how to make peace with your body and learn how to give your body what it wants, to learn how to feel good about yourself by eating the right foods and all that puts you in a different state. And then you don't want to escape your body nearly as much. And to do that with your mind, your heart, your spirit, your body, it's very healthy. So some examples: learning how to be the master of your bedtime. This is something I've been working on for 2 years. I would highly recommend having a very strong evening routine. But an example is I know a lot of people, they bring their phone into bed and that's where they act out, right? That's where they struggle. Instead of going to sleep, they end up just scrolling for hours sometimes, right? So to learn, okay, I'm going to give myself a bedtime and I'm going to do the right things before bed, have a cup of like really nice valerian root tea and get really cozy and meditate and like lull myself into sleep and have a great sleep and wake up feeling fresh. That can be a game changer. It has been a game changer for many people in their journey towards sexual integrity. Learning how to handle stress, learning how to breathe through it, learning how to acknowledge, oh, I'm feeling really stressed out, and figuring out what you need to do to deal with that stress rather than letting that stress turn you into somebody who's freaking out. Next is facing your anger and breathing through that. What do you want to do with your anger? And I recommend getting abs with your anger. I should come up with an online course. Get abs with your anger. Last one, I'm great at calling my friends when I'm lonely. I know so many people that are so lonely when they don't know how to pick up their phone. They don't know how to reach out to people. But imagine your North Star goal is I am so fulfilled because anytime I feel alone, I either pray, spend time with myself, or I reach out to a friend and I have a great conversation. That's a North Star goal, right? You're talking about a state of being and you practice being that somebody who's fulfilled because they're never lonely because they always spend time with themselves. They always spend time with God or they spend time with their friends and they just know what is needed. And that is a fulfilled person. So I hope all that made sense. It really is, you need to be able to siphon the energy that you've been wasting, worrying, stressing, judging yourself, staring at your phone, and start reallocating that energy towards building your life into something that you're really proud of. But the transition is really having a purpose, something that you want to build, and that is the North Star goal.